First contact gone wrong. The Xyrillian delegation stood motionless, their crystalline exoskeletons refracting the harsh lighting of the diplomatic chamber. Each of the 7 representatives had 3 sets of compound eyes mounted on stalks that swiveled independently, taking in every detail of the human delegation with detached scientific curiosity. Admiral Terex, their leader, extended a jointed appendage toward Captain Ilara Hayes. "Your species appears." The translator struggled with the alien concept, structurally inadequate. Hayes maintained her professional smile despite the insult. First contact with the Xyrillian collective had been humanity's greatest achievement, establishing relations with a federation of 37 spacefaring species. But 2 months into diplomatic talks, the cultural gaps seemed to widen rather than close. "We've managed to survive this long," Hayes replied. The scars on her face testament to 20 years in Earth's Special Environmental Combat Division. Her team of 12 stood at parade rest behind her, each bearing similar marks of service. Admiral Terex's central eye cluster focused on Hayes' scars. "Fascinating. Your bodies retain damage records. Inefficient, but interesting." The diplomatic meeting proceeded with the usual exchange of technological specifications and cultural briefings. As always, humanity came up short. The Xyrillians possessed faster-than-light travel that didn't require massive energy expenditures. Their medical technology had eliminated disease across 3 star systems. Even their basic combat armor could withstand energy weapons that would vaporize Earth's best tanks. But Director Scholl, a spindly alien with pale blue crystalline structures instead of skin, seemed fixated on Earth itself. "Your homeworld data cannot be accurate," Scholl insisted, mandibles clicking in what the humans had learned was agitation. "These radiation levels in your nuclear test sites, no sentient life could evolve there." Hayes exchanged glances with Dr. Chen, their xenobiologist. "Those are extreme areas, but humans have adapted to live even there with minimal protection." "Impossible," Scholl dismissed. "And these temperature variations, from your Death Valley to your Antarctica, no single species could tolerate both. We use appropriate gear, but humans have survived in both locations without advanced technology," Chen explained patiently. "Our historical records show." "Fabrications," interrupted Terex. "No carbon-based life form could endure such conditions. Perhaps your translation matrix is faulty." The meeting ended in a diplomatic impasse. As the human delegation departed to their temporary quarters in the massive orbital station above what humans had designated Proxima Centauri, Hayes gathered her team. "They think we're lying about basic human capabilities," she said, scrolling through the latest diplomatic report, "or exaggerating to appear more formidable." Lieutenant Marcus Drake, her second-in-command, snorted. "Hard to impress a species that can manipulate gravity as easily as we handle water." "Their arrogance might work in our favor," Hayes mused. "They're underestimating us significantly." 3 days later, that underestimation proved critical. A systems failure, or deliberate sabotage, as Hayes suspected, caused catastrophic decompression in the human quarters. Emergency protocols activated, but the Xyrillians, expecting mass casualties, were shocked to find all 13 humans alive in emergency pressure suits, having reacted within seconds. "Impossible response time," she overheard one Xyrillian security officer commenting. "Their neural pathways cannot transmit signals that quickly." Before diplomatic relations could recover from the incident, an extremist faction of the Yexari, one of the collective's newest members, attacked the station directly. In the chaos that followed, Hayes and her team found themselves defending both human and Xyrillian diplomats from the heavily armed insurgents. Security footage later showed Hayes personally eliminating 7 attackers after suffering a wound that Xyrillian medical experts classified as unsurvivable. The human team moved with speed and precision that the collective's tactical analysts deemed statistically impossible for organic entities. The incident should have improved relations, Instead, it triggered alarm through the highest levels of the collective. Supreme Commander Crixel of the Xerillian Defense Force reviewed the footage for the 12th time, his sensory appendages twitching with agitation. Around the obsidian war table, 6 generals from different species watched in silence. "This cannot be accurate," General Vex of the Ophidian Guard hissed, her scaled body coiling tighter. The atmospheric readings in that section showed oxygen levels at 12%, nitrogen at toxic levels, temperature approaching 40 degrees below their freezing point. Yet they fought for 22 minutes. And this one. Crixel paused the hologram on Hayes' image as she carried an injured Xerillian diplomat, twice her size, across the chamber, continued fighting after losing approximately 20% of her blood volume. Their weapons, General Moores of the Hive Collective clicked his mandibles nervously. Synthetic organisms designed to appear biological. "Our scans confirm they are fully organic," countered Science Director Thal, the only non-military leader present. "But their physiological parameters defy conventional categorization. They can regulate their internal temperature within a range of 50 degrees. Their blood carries oxygen reserves that allow them to function for minutes without breathing. They can sustain gravitational forces that would shatter our exoskeletons." "How is this possible?" demanded General Vex. "Their homeworld," Thal brought up a holographic display of Earth. "It is not, as we assumed, a carefully terraformed paradise. It is a death world by our standards. Crushing gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared. Atmospheric pressure that would compress most sentient lungs. Temperature variations that would rupture cellular membranes. Radiation levels from their sun that should cause genetic breakdown in decades. And they evolved there." Crixel's voice conveyed disbelief. "Not just evolved." Thal zoomed in on Earth's surface, displaying a human running across burning desert sand. "They thrive there. They deliberately expose themselves to environments we would consider lethal for recreation." The footage shifted to mountain climbers scaling ice walls without environmental suits, then to humans voluntarily submerging in turbulent ocean waters. "By the ancient stars," whispered Moores, "they're insane." "No," Crixel's voice hardened. "They're dangerous. More dangerous than we suspected. We need to understand their full capabilities." The decision was made in that moment. What had begun as diplomatic contact shifted to a military assessment of a potential threat. 3 days later, during what the humans believed was a cultural exchange tour of a Xerillian battlecruiser, Hayes and her team were separated, subdued, and taken into custody. The trap had been well planned. Despite their remarkable abilities, the humans were overwhelmed by targeted gravitational fields that increased their effective weight tenfold, while specialized atmospheric chambers flooded with compounds that attacked their respiratory systems. Captain Hayes woke in a sterile white chamber, her body aching but functional. Through a transparent barrier, she could see Xerillian scientists monitoring her vital signs. Beyond them, partially obscured, stood Supreme Commander Crixel himself. "Why?" Hayes demanded, her voice hoarse. "Security," Crixel responded simply. "Your species represents an unquantified variable." "We came in peace." Hayes struggled to sit upright against the increased gravity of the chamber. "Perhaps." Crixel moved closer to the barrier. "But you came with capabilities your diplomatic corps deliberately concealed. Your species can endure environmental conditions that would kill 93% of spacefaring races in the known galaxy. You have reaction speeds comparable to our most advanced combat drones. Your adaptive capacity exceeds anything in our biological records." Hayes said nothing, conserving her strength as she assessed her situation. "What truly concerns us," Crixel continued, "is what else you might be concealing. If these abilities are your baseline, what other capabilities might your military forces possess?" "We told you everything," Hayes managed, recognizing the fear behind Crixel's accusations. "Your scientists just didn't believe it." "Then you won't object to helping us understand?" Crixel gestured to the scientists. We've designed a series of tests to document the full range of human capabilities. Nothing lethal, I assure you, and my team. They are being similarly studied. Cooperate, and you'll be reunited once we've established the parameters of your species' abilities. Hayes knew a lie when she heard one. The Xerillians had no intention of releasing potential weapons, which is exactly how they viewed humans now. As Crixel departed, Hayes closed her eyes, appearing to rest. In reality, she was activating the subdermal communication implant that all SECD operatives received. Technology primitive by Xerillian standards, but effectively invisible to their scans. If even one of her team was conscious and within range, they could begin coordinating. The next 12 hours were grueling. The Xerillians methodically tested Hayes' endurance against various atmospheric compositions, temperature extremes, gravitational pressures, and even radiation levels. What they considered tortuous, Hayes recognized as conditions not dissimilar to SECD training environments on Earth: the Nevada Crucible, the Marianas Descent, the Siberian Endurance March. By the time they returned her to the holding cell, Hayes had confirmed two critical facts. The Xerillians were genuinely terrified of human potential, and 3 of her team members were alive and responsive to her subdermal communications. As she lay on the hard surface that served as a bed, Hayes allowed herself a grim smile. The Xerillians had made a fundamental error in their assessment. They believed humans were dangerous because of their physical adaptability. They hadn't yet grasped that human innovation, strategic thinking, and sheer stubbornness under pressure were far more dangerous than any biological advantage. That night, as the Xerillian battlecruiser adjusted course toward what Hayes' implant identified as a research outpost in a distant star system, she began formulating an escape plan, not just for her team, but one that would fundamentally redefine humanity's relationship with the Xerillian collective. The Xerillians had wanted to understand human capabilities. Soon, they would have their answer, in the most direct demonstration possible. The breaking point. Impossible. Run the simulation again. Science Director Thal's normally measured voice carried an edge of frustration that made the junior analysts flinch. The holographic projection reset, displaying the environmental testing chamber, where Captain Hayes had been subjected to atmospheric pressure equivalent to 30 meters below Earth's oceans. The human maintained consciousness for 17 minutes, reported the analyst, despite nitrogen narcosis levels that should have rendered any carbon-based life form unconscious within seconds. And the temperature stress tests. Subject tolerated minus 20 degrees Celsius for nearly an hour with minimal protective covering. Core temperature decreased only 4 degrees before stabilizing. Supreme Commander Crixel entered the laboratory, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. "You appear troubled, Director." These humans, Thal manipulated the data displays with agitated movements. They make no biological sense. Their cells contain no special adaptations, no extraordinary components we can identify. Their DNA is complex but fundamentally similar to other carbon-based life forms. Yet their performance exceeds all theoretical limits. Could they be artificially enhanced? Crixel asked. We found no evidence of genetic manipulation, cybernetic implantation, or chemical augmentation, Thal admitted, though we did detect trace elements of substances they call caffeine and adrenaline in their bloodstreams. Natural evolution, then. On that death world they call Earth, perhaps. But even accounting for evolutionary pressure, their capabilities seem. Thal hesitated. Engineered, Crixel suggested. Impossible, Thal repeated, but with less conviction. In her holding cell, Hayes had spent 3 days mapping the ship's systems through the minimal data her implant could access. The Xerillians' technological superiority was overwhelming, but their security protocols revealed a critical weakness. They were designed to contain threats they understood. When the guards came to transfer her to the high-security research facility on Nexus 7, Hayes was ready. Her team, dispersed throughout the ship, had each received their instructions through the subdermal network. The plan was simple but depended entirely on the Xyrillians' fundamental misunderstanding of human capabilities. As predicted, the transfer protocol involved tranquilizing the humans before moving them. What the Xyrillians couldn't know was that SECD operatives underwent extensive conditioning to resist chemical sedatives. While Hayes appeared unconscious, her mind remained clear. The transport shuttle detached from the battlecruiser with Hayes and 5 other team members secured in separate containment pods. Lieutenant Drake and the remaining 6 were scheduled for transfer on a second shuttle. As the small vessel accelerated toward Nexus 7, Hayes calculated their window of opportunity. 20 minutes into the flight, she gave the signal. Across the shuttle, 5 humans simultaneously broke free of restraints designed for sedated prisoners. The Xyrillian guards reacted with textbook precision and complete surprise when their stun weapons proved ineffective against targets who had anticipated the attack. The shuttle pilot, alerted to the disturbance, initiated emergency protocols. The atmosphere vented from the prisoner compartment, a failsafe designed to incapacitate any escapees. Instead, the humans simply activated the emergency breathing apparatus they'd removed from their unconscious guards. "Impossible," gasped the pilot when Hayes and Specialist Rodriguez burst into the cockpit 3 minutes later. "You keep using that word," Hayes said, securing control of the vessel. "I don't think it means what you think it means." Within 30 minutes, the humans had complete control of the shuttle. Rather than proceeding to Nexus 7, Hayes set course for the nearby moon of Terra II, a desolate rock with a thin, toxic atmosphere and temperature fluctuations that could crack Xyrillian exoskeletons. To the humans, it was merely uncomfortable. Before shutting down the shuttle's communications, Hayes transmitted a simple message to the battlecruiser. "We will wait for negotiations on Terra II. Send unarmed representatives only. Any military action will be considered a declaration of war against humanity." It was a bluff. 6 humans against the might of the Xyrillian collective, but Hayes was counting on the aliens' growing fear of human capabilities. "They cannot possibly survive on Terra II," General Vex insisted, her scaled coils writhing in agitation. "The atmosphere is 30% sulfur compounds. The temperature ranges from -60 to +70 degrees in a single rotation cycle. The radiation levels alone. They are already surviving." Crixel interrupted, displaying the surveillance feed from a stealth drone orbiting the moon. The footage showed the 6 humans establishing a defensive perimeter around their shuttle. They wore minimal protective gear, certainly nothing that could withstand Terra II's hostile environment by Xyrillian standards. "Impossible," Vex hissed. "You must stop using that word," Crixel snapped. "It has become meaningless where humans are concerned." The strategic implications were dire. If these 6 unenhanced humans could survive in environments the collective considered lethal, what might Earth's actual military forces be capable of? The diplomatic reports had mentioned an Earth population of 8 billion. 8 billion potential soldiers who could fight in conditions no collective species could endure. "We should eliminate them now," General Moores suggested. "One precision strike, no survivors, no witnesses, and start a war with a species that treats toxic atmospheres as a minor inconvenience." Fall's voice dripped with sarcasm. They would not forgive such an action. "The second transport containing the remaining humans departs in 6 hours, Crixel noted. "I propose we use that time to attempt communication." The decision was made, though not unanimously. A diplomatic shuttle would approach Terra III with Science Director Thal as the primary negotiator. Meanwhile, a battle fleet would assemble in high orbit, ready to strike if negotiations failed. On the surface of Terra II, Hayes and her team had transformed their shuttle into a defensible position. The toxic atmosphere burned their lungs even through filtration masks, and the temperature swings were brutal, but these conditions were survivable. They had endured worse during the Antarctica isolation trials. "They're approaching," Specialist Chen reported, monitoring the shuttle sensors. "One vessel, minimal weapons. Looks like they're actually willing to talk. Or they're stalling while they position their fleet," Hayes countered. Rodriguez, Morgan, maintain the perimeter. Chen, prep the shuttle for immediate launch if this goes sideways. Walker, you're with me. As the Zerillion shuttle landed 300 meters from their position, Hayes felt a strange calm. This moment would define humanity's place in the interstellar community, either as partners or as threats to be feared. Science Director Thal emerged alone, wearing an environmental suit that looked more like a small mechanized vehicle than personal protection. Hayes and Walker stood exposed except for breathing apparatus, a deliberate demonstration of human resilience. Captain Hayes, Thal's voice came through a speaker. Your actions are unprecedented. So was your kidnapping of diplomatic personnel. Hayes replied evenly. A security precaution that appears justified. Thal gestured at their surroundings. No collective species could survive here unprotected as you are doing. That's the point you're missing, Director. We're not superhuman. We're just human. This environment is harsh but tolerable for us with minimal protection. Earth has prepared us for conditions far worse than this. Impossible. Thal began, then corrected himself. Difficult to believe. The universe doesn't care what you believe, Hayes said. Now, here are our terms. Immediate release of all human personnel, a formal apology from the collective, and the establishment of diplomatic relations based on mutual respect rather than scientific curiosity. The Supreme Commander anticipated these demands. Thal's mechanical appendages shifted, creating a faint mist as ice crystals formed on their surface. He is prepared to release your personnel and resume diplomatic discussions. And the apology? We are not authorized to admit wrongdoing in a security matter. Hayes smiled thinly. Then tell Crixel that in 24 hours, we will leave this moon on our shuttle. We will transmit everything we've learned about Zerillion technology to Earth. We will share our assessment of your military capabilities, psychological weaknesses, and technological vulnerabilities. That would be a hostile act. Thal's voice hardened. It would be an appropriate response to our treatment, Hayes countered. We came offering friendship and were treated as laboratory specimens. Perhaps humanity should reconsider peaceful contact with the collective. The threat was clear. The Zerillians had confirmed humans could survive environments their weapons relied upon to be lethal. They had witnessed human adaptability, endurance, and resourcefulness firsthand. The prospect of facing those qualities in a military confrontation was deeply unsettling. I will convey your position to Supreme Commander Crixel. Thal retreated to his shuttle. 3 hours later, as Tara Iwi's weak sun set behind jagged mountains, casting the landscape in eerie purple twilight, the Zerillion shuttle returned. This time, Supreme Commander Crixel himself emerged, his environmental suit more streamlined than Thal's but still bulky compared to the humans' minimal gear. Captain Hayes, Crixel's voice carried authority, even through electronic translation. I have reviewed your terms. The collective acknowledges our error in threat assessment. Your personnel will be released immediately. A formal statement expressing regret for the misunderstanding will be issued. Hayes recognized the careful wording. Regret, not apology, but decided it was sufficient. And diplomatic relations will resume, with revised protocols acknowledging the unique physiological capabilities of humans. Acceptable, Hayes nodded. Though I suggest your scientists spend less time studying how we survive and more time understanding why. Clarify, Crixel requested. Our strength isn't our biology, Commander. It's what we've done with it. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us at every turn. Instead of engineering our environment to suit our limitations, we adapted ourselves to overcome those challenges. An interesting philosophical distinction, Crixel acknowledged, though the practical results remain concerning. Only if you intend to be our enemy. Hayes extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. We'd much rather be your allies. After a moment's hesitation, Crixel extended a mechanical appendage to complete the gesture. Perhaps there is much our species could learn from each other. As the Zerillion commander returned to his shuttle, Science Director Thal approached Hayes privately. There is one question that continues to trouble me, Captain, Thal admitted. During your captivity, you were subjected to conditions that should have been unbearable. Yet our monitors detected minimal stress indicators. How did you endure it? Hayes considered the question. The truth was complex, a combination of specialized training, psychological conditioning, and the uniquely human capacity to adapt through sheer stubborn determination. But she settled on the simplest explanation. We've been training for this our entire history, Director. Not for meeting aliens specifically, but for facing the unknown and surviving it. That's what humans do. As both shuttles lifted off from the hostile surface of Terra II, a new understanding began to form between the species. The Xyrillian collective had encountered many civilizations throughout their expansion, but none quite like humanity. A species that turned adversity into advantage and saw impossible challenges as simply problems waiting to be solved. In the command center of the battlecruiser, Crixel reviewed the final assessment of human capabilities. The document concluded with a recommendation that would soon become standard protocol throughout the collective. In all diplomatic and military engagement scenarios involving humans, disregard conventional biological limitations. What other species consider impossible, humans consider Tuesday. Hayes couldn't have put it better herself.